It was the first week of November when Megan Parker and her husband Dylan finally moved into their new home on Hollow Bend Lane, a quiet cul-de-sac in the suburbs of Willow Creek. They'd spent years dreaming of this, the kind of house that looks peaceful on every real estate brochure. A white picket fence, a red door, a front porch that creaked softly when the wind blew. Everything about it felt right, safe, ordinary. The first few days passed like any other move. Boxes everywhere, late-night takeout, arguments about where to put the couch. But on the third morning, when Megan opened the front door to grab a package she was expecting, she noticed something strange. Sitting dead center on the porch was a small square box, wrapped in brown paper and tied neatly with twine. No shipping label, no handwriting, nothing. It was just there. She hesitated before picking it up. The box was cold, heavier than it looked. She called out, "Dylan? Did you order something?" He shouted back from the kitchen, "Nope, probably a welcome gift from one of the neighbors." Megan smiled. That seemed plausible enough. Willow Creek had that kind of friendly neighborhood vibe. She carried the package inside, sat it on the table, and unwrapped the twine. Inside, resting on a nest of crumpled tissue paper, was a Chucky doll. The same kind from the old horror movies. Red hair, overalls, stitched smile. Only this one wasn't new. Its face was scratched, one glass eye cracked, and its clothes looked dirty, almost burnt at the edges. It smelled faintly of plastic and smoke. Dylan chuckled when he saw it. Guess someone's got a sense of humor, maybe a leftover Halloween prank. Megan forced a smile. Halloween had been over for a week, and they hadn't decorated or met any neighbors yet. Still, she didn't want to seem paranoid, so she set the doll outside on the porch bench just to get it out of the house. That night it rained. The wind howled against the windows and the old house groaned like it was settling into its bones. At around 2 a.m., Megan heard something faint. A dull thud on the porch, then a dragging sound. She convinced herself it was a branch, maybe the wind knocking something over. But in the morning when she went downstairs, her blood ran cold. The Chucky doll was sitting upright on the living room couch, hands in its lap facing the television. She screamed, "Dylan, what the hell is this?" He stumbled out half asleep, confused. "What are you talking about?" When she pointed, his eyes went wide. I swear I didn't touch it." They checked the locks with every door, every window still shut. The porch was dry, meaning the doll must have come inside long before the rain stopped. Neither of them could explain it. That night, Dylan installed a small security camera above the front door. He laughed while doing it, trying to lighten the mood. "Relax, Meg, we'll catch the ghost red-handed." But she didn't laugh. Something about the doll's grin, the way the cracked eye seemed to follow her, made her uneasy. Before bed, she covered it with a towel and left it on the porch again. At 3:08 a.m., Megan's phone buzzed. "Motion detected, front porch." She opened the live feed. The image was fuzzy, grainy. Static flickered across the screen, then cleared, just enough to make out the shape. The doll was standing, not sitting, standing upright against the door. Its cracked eye glinted in the porch light, and its shadow stretched across the welcome mat. Then, for a split second, its head turned toward the camera, and the feed went black. When the sun came up, the doll was gone. In its place, taped to the front door, was a note written in childish, uneven letters. "Thank you for letting me in." Megan's hand shook as she read it. Dylan thought it was a prank, maybe a neighbor's kid or someone trying to scare them. He even went door to door asking around, but no one admitted to knowing anything. Most of the neighbors just smiled awkwardly and said, "You're on the old Lambert property, right? Been empty for years." When he asked why, they all gave the same vague answer. Strange things happened there. That night, Megan couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she thought she heard footsteps, slow, soft, measured, moving down the hallway. Around midnight, she got up to check, heart pounding. The house was silent. But when she turned toward the stairs, she froze. There, sitting at the top step, was the Chucky doll. Its cracked eye glimmering in the dark, its head tilted toward her like it was listening. She screamed. Dylan came running, but when he flicked the lights on, the stairs were empty. They checked every room, every closet, nothing. When they pulled up the security footage, it was just static again. Every single clip after midnight had been wiped clean. The next day, Megan insisted they leave. They packed bags, booked a hotel, and decided to return only in daylight to finish moving out. But before they left, she went outside one last time to lock the door and froze in place. The same small box was sitting on the porch again. Same brown paper, same twine, except this time it had her name written across the top in thick red marker, Megan. She refused to touch it. They left immediately. When they returned the next morning with the police, the box was gone. The porch was clean, too clean, but the officer noticed small footprints in the frost-dusted grass. Tiny, bare footprints, leading down the sidewalk, vanishing where the houses ended. The officer shook his head. "Could be kids messing around," he said. But his tone didn't sound convinced. They decided to move out that week. They didn't even bother selling the place. They just left. On their last night, while Dylan packed the car, Megan stood in the empty living room. It was quiet now, except for the faint creak of the porch boards in the wind. She turned one last time to look at her phone. Another notification. Motion detected, front porch. Her stomach dropped. She opened the live feed. Static filled the screen for a moment, then an image. The Chucky doll sitting upright on the porch bench, one hand raised in a slow, stiff wave. Its mouth cracked, grinning, but seemed wider than before. Next to it sat another small brown box, perfectly wrapped, twine tied neatly in a bow. The box was labeled in fresh black ink, "For the next family." And right before the feed went to static, the doll's head tilted slowly, as if acknowledging that Megan was watching. She dropped her phone, and for the first time, she realized the truth that had been gnawing at her since the first day. The package wasn't delivered to her. It followed her. Before she ever saw that doll again, Laura Mendel had convinced herself she'd left her past behind. She was in her late 40s now, quiet, withdrawn, living in a one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat in downtown Chicago. Her days were predictable. Mornings spent reading, evenings designing freelance graphics on her old computer, and nights alone, falling asleep to the faint hum of traffic. But 25 years earlier, she had worked for PlayPal Industries, the toy company that had made the Good Guy dolls. The smiling, talking, red-haired dolls that had once been America's favorite toy. Laura had joined the design team fresh out of college, idealistic, talented, and too naive to notice how strange things already were at the factory. It started with the laughter, not from people, from the dolls. The early prototypes would activate by themselves. Late at night, when only the night shift was working, employees swore they heard the dolls whispering phrases that weren't in their programming. At first, management laughed it off. Technical glitches, they said. But then a worker named Ed Ramos lost his hand in one of the assembly machines. He claimed something grabbed his sleeve, but he'd been working alone. The security footage from that night, it cut out 30 seconds before the accident. A few months later, another worker went missing. His locker was found open, his clothes neatly folded on a bench. And sitting right on top was a prototype Good Guy doll, the one Laura had been testing for internal movement calibration. Her initials were burned on the serial tag, LM27. That same day, she was called into her manager's office and told her prototype line was being shut down. Legal issues, they said. Don't ask questions." They escorted her out the same afternoon. PlayPal Industries closed that entire division shortly after, and Laura, broken and humiliated, left the toy industry altogether. For decades, she avoided anything to do with dolls. She found a quieter job at a print shop, then started freelancing from home. She didn't even keep toys or decorations. Her apartment was sterile, simple, safe. Until one gray November morning in 1998, a package arrived at her door. No name, no address, no return label. Just a single word written across the front in faded black ink: home. She froze. She hadn't ordered anything. At first, she left it untouched, sitting in the corner by the door. But that night, she couldn't stop staring at it. It was small, square, the cardboard slightly damp, like it had been sitting in the rain. At 11:00 p.m., she finally cut the twine. Inside was a good guy doll, one of the originals. The plastic skin was yellowed with age, the clothes frayed, the right eye cracked. But on its foot, faint, almost rubbed off, were the markings: LM27. Her prototype, the same doll she'd watched being thrown into the compactor 25 years ago. Her chest tightened. She remembered the way its voice used to glitch during testing, repeating her name in static. Laura! She pushed it back into the box, sealed it shut, and shoved it under her bed. She didn't sleep that night. When she woke up the next morning, the box was on her kitchen counter, open, and the doll was sitting upright, its head turned toward the window. She backed away slowly, her breath trembling. The window was locked from the inside. No one could have come in. By noon, she convinced herself she was overreacting. Maybe she'd moved it while half asleep. She put the doll on her old work table, the same drafting desk she'd used during her design days, and went out for groceries. When she came home 2 hours later, every single tool on her table was laid out: ruler, pliers, pencil, even her broken magnifier lamp, arranged perfectly. Exactly the way she used to keep them at PlayPal. Only this time something new sat in the center. A small scrap of paper. Her old employee ID number written in crayon. That night, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. She unplugged her phone, her lamps, everything that made noise. But around 3 a.m., a faint clicking sound started from the corner of the room. Like plastic joints bending. She turned her head slowly. The doll sat on the desk, its cracked eye catching the glow from the streetlight outside. The faintest smile stretched across its mouth, wider than she remembered molding it. And then from the darkness came a voice, distorted, faint and childlike. "Hi, I'm your friend to the end." Her heart stopped. That was her voice, from an old PlayPal recording session she'd done as a joke with the sound team. She yanked the doll from the desk, threw it into a garbage bag, and drove 15 miles to the landfill outside town. She didn't stop until she saw it crushed beneath a mound of broken toys and plastic. When she got home, she poured herself a drink, shaking uncontrollably. Her hand smelled faintly of burnt plastic. For the first time in years, she slept. But at 3:12 a.m., her phone rang, an old landline she hadn't used in years. She answered with a trembling voice. No one spoke. Only faint static, then a whisper. Back to work. The line went dead. She ripped the phone from the wall and stared at the cord, black burn marks across the plug. The next morning, she noticed something on her front door. A small, greasy handprint, no larger than a child's, smeared near the handle. She locked every door, drew every curtain, but the air felt heavier, like the room was breathing. That night, her old computer flickered to life on its own. Across the screen, an image began to render, pixel by pixel, her old PlayPal factory blueprint. But this time, one room was circled in red. The testing lab. Her apartment lights dimmed. The smell of melting plastic filled the air. When she looked up, the doll was sitting on her drafting table again, perfectly clean, eyes gleaming, and around its neck hung her missing work ID badge. Pinned to its shirt was a note written in crayon again. "We missed you, Laura." Her scream echoed down the hall. Neighbors later told police they heard crashing and shouting, and then nothing. When the officers entered the next morning, the apartment was empty. The smell of burnt plastic lingered. The windows were fogged, the wallpaper discolored. On the table sat a brand new good guy doll, spotless, factory new. Its blue eyes unblinking, and on its foot was stamped a new code, Employee LM27. Taped to its box was another note, short, written in red marker, "Shipment confirmed." When the police logged it as evidence, the doll was placed in a locked cabinet at the precinct's storage room. 2 nights later, the lock was found melted shut. The room reeked of smoke and ozone. The doll was gone. A week later, PlayPal Industries, a company that had been out of business for over 20 years, suddenly had a new trademark filing under their name. The registered contact? Laura Mendel. And to this day, in the archives of the U.S. Patent Office, the filing still exists. Marcus Boyd had built his entire life around horror. Ever since he was a kid, he'd been fascinated by the strange, the forbidden, and the things people were too afraid to talk about. He was that kid who rented horror movies his parents wouldn't let him watch, who built his first Halloween mask from duct tape and rubber bands. Now, at 35, Marcus had turned his obsession into a career. He ran a popular YouTube channel called The Collector's Room, where he showcased his vast collection of horror memorabilia, movie props, masks, cursed dolls, old VHS tapes, even pieces of haunted houses he'd bought online. But his pride and joy was his Chucky collection. More than 60 dolls, every version ever released, from the original Child's Play to the newer reboots. He kept them behind glass cases that lined the walls of his studio, their plastic smiles frozen under soft red lighting. His audience loved it. Every video he posted got thousands of views, at least until the comments started changing. It was subtle at first. A viewer commented, "Hey, is it just me or did the doll in the back move?" Marcus laughed it off, probably the camera angle. But then more comments came in. "Bro, check the frame at 402. The one in the corner blinked." "Behind you." He ignored them. Internet trolls, he thought. Then one night, he decided to go back and rewatch one of his old videos, just to prove everyone wrong. He zoomed in on frame 402. There it was, a flicker of motion, a head tilting ever so slightly toward the camera. He tried to rationalize it. Maybe he bumped the tripod. Maybe the light shifted. But deep down, he knew the camera hadn't moved. A few days later, he was live streaming for his audience, showing off a new screen-used prop knife he'd bought from a horror convention. Chat was lively, thousands of people watching. He joked, smiled, showed off the collection behind him. Then a message popped up in chat. "Dude behind you." He turned and laughed. "Nice try, guys." When he looked back at the camera, another comment appeared. "No, seriously, look at the one in the middle shelf." He turned again. Every doll was facing the same direction, except one. A Chucky doll on the middle shelf had its head slightly turned toward him. He froze. His hands trembled slightly, but he kept the smile. "Guess someone's having fun with Photoshop," he said. But chat exploded. "It moved again! It's looking right at you." "Oh my God, rewind the stream." Marcus ended the live broadcast, laughing nervously, and turned off the lights. But as the red glow faded, he noticed something in the reflection of the glass case. A faint shimmer, like a breath on the inside of the glass. He leaned closer, and for a split second he saw it, a tiny hand pressed against the inside. That night he slept with the lights on. The next morning he checked his YouTube analytics. His last stream had over 300,000 views overnight. Dozens of reaction videos had popped up. Haunted Chucky doll moves on camera. Real or fake? The collector's room incident. His subscriber count doubled. People begged him to leave stream again. He did. The next night, Marcus went live once more, trying to ride the wave while controlling the narrative. "This is just creepy lighting and angles," he said to the camera. "Nothing haunted here." But as he spoke, the chat went wild again. "Stop. Bro, turn around. It's on the floor." He turned slowly. One of the Chucky dolls was lying on the carpet right behind him. The case door was still closed. No cracks, no gaps. Marcus's voice wavered. "Okay, someone's screwing with me." He ended the stream. When he watched the replay later, he saw something the chat hadn't. Right before he turned around, the reflection in the glass behind him showed a second figure, small, red-haired, standing at the edge of the frame. Then the lights flickered and it vanished. By the third night, Marcus had stopped sleeping. Every time he tried, he'd hear faint giggles echoing from the display room. That same recorded good guy voice. "Hi, I'm your friend to the end." Sometimes it whispered softly after that, almost too quiet to catch. "And I'll never leave." He unplugged every speaker in the house. He even turned off the breaker to his studio, but the sound never stopped. The next morning, his phone buzzed. New notifications from YouTube. Apparently, someone had uploaded a new video to his channel overnight, but he hadn't. The video was titled, "I'm not alone in the collector's room." The thumbnail showed Marcus sleeping in his chair, something he didn't even remember doing. He clicked play. The footage was shaky, handheld. Someone, or something, was filming him while he slept. In the reflection of the glass, dozens of small shapes were moving. The dolls' heads turned one by one, all facing the camera. Then the screen glitched. Static. And a single frame flashed. A child's face, pale, smiling, eyes wide and red. Marcus yanked the plug from his computer. His heart was pounding. He grabbed his keys and left the house, driving aimlessly through the night. He checked into a motel an hour away, trying to convince himself it was over. But at 3:17 a.m., he woke to the sound of a familiar voice. From the corner of the dark motel room. "Hi, I'm your friend to the end." He turned the lamp on, and there, sitting on the table beside his phone, was one of his Chucky dolls, still wearing its display tag. Lot number 3C, Marcus Boyd Collection. Police found his car 2 days later, parked outside his house. His keys were in the ignition. The front door was unlocked. Inside, his studio lights were on. The dolls were gone, every single one of them. In their place, lining the glass shelves, were photographs. Dozens of printed stills from his YouTube live streams. Each one capturing Marcus's terrified face as he looked over his shoulder. On the bottom shelf was a single doll, clean, new, unboxed. Its tag read, "The Collector's Room, Limited Edition, owned by Marcus Boyd." When detectives opened its battery compartment, they found no batteries. Just a small memory card taped inside. The card contained one video, a first-person view of a room lined with dolls. A voice, faint and childish, whispered through static, "Smile for your fans." Then laughter. Then silence. To this day, no one knows what happened to Marcus Boyd. His channel remains online. Every few months, a new video appears. Same dark room, same voice, same dolls. Each one titled simply, "The Collector's Room, New Upload." And if you turn your volume all the way up, you can hear faint breathing behind the camera, like someone's still filming. If you made it this far, thank you for spending your night with us. If these stories gave you chills, there's plenty more waiting. Don't forget to subscribe to NightFear Stories for new terrifying tales every single night. Sleep well, if you can.